Hello everyone. Hi Rohi.
Hello.
Rohi, we'll just wait for 1 minute, see if others are joining, and then we can start. Yeah? Okay. I think we can give it a start now. So we will just continue from where we left off yesterday, right? So we were looking into the correlation heat map. So in the correlation heat map, we saw some findings. There are a lot, some places where there are blacks, and there are some places where there are very bright colors like this one, right? So there is a bright color. I think I missed writing that. Let me just quickly check what that is. So there is a NOx to index. Yes, NOx and index I have written. Yeah. So what I have done is, as we discussed, I had requested everyone to write down their findings in the notebook. I'm not sure how many of us have actually done that, but I have written my findings. What I have found is DIS, this factor or this feature DIS, has a very high negative correlation with the features Indus, NOx, and Edge, which means that with increase in the weighted distances to 5 Boston employment centers from any house in Boston, there is a decrease in the proportion of non-retail business acres per town, right? So the more we get closer to the employment center, the less becomes the proportion of houses, okay, per acre, or the less becomes the nitric oxide concentration, or the less becomes the proportion of owner occupied houses built prior to 1940. So number of old houses are less as we go towards the employment centers, right? Then tax feature seems to have a very high positive correlation with RAD. I have not specifically written the numbers because it's really going to confuse let's say people. So number is not really important. On an average, what I have done is maybe I can put it in a note. Okay, maybe I can put it here as a note. Let me just put it there. So note, I'll put a note that we have considered only cases of positive or negative correlations where the correlation coefficient, right, is greater than 0.7 Okay, greater than or equal to 0.7 by its absolute value. Okay, what this means is that is correlation coefficient is greater than equal to 0.7 greater than equal to 0.7 and correlation coefficient less than equal to 0.7, less than or equal to minus 0.7. Okay, so this is what we have considered. Okay, so we have taken the range, so that is why I said by its absolute value. So that's what I have taken. So wherever I have seen such kind of cases, that only I have considered and not considered everything. So that's second point. Then tax TAX feature has very high positive correlation with RAD. What this means is with increase in full value property tax rate, right, per $10,000 of US, we see an increase in the index of accessibility to radial highways or vice versa. So the tax of the property is increasing equivocally as we go closer to the highways, and this is very, very probable, because if you look at the value, I'll just quickly show you what is the correlation coefficient here. It's 0.91. The tax to rad correlation coefficient value is 0.91. It's really very highly correlated. Then I have the third point, which is tax has very high positive correlation with Indus. That means with the increase in full value property tax per rate per USD 10,000, we usually see an increase in the proportion of non-retail business acres per town. Right, so non-retail businesses are increasing if the tax increasing in those areas where the tax or the property tax is also increasing. This is a very weird kind of a combination. Maybe I don't know that area, right? Obviously, we have never stayed in that area, so I cannot really comment on this one. But this is as per the numbers. So as per the numbers, this is what it is. The fourth is NOx and index are also quite well positively correlated. Uh, this was the last point I thought of writing, because this is also very interesting or important. That is that with the increase of nitric oxide concentration, parts per million, parts per 10 million. So as the let's say we can say the pollution in the air, as the pollution in the air increases, okay, we usually see an increase in the proportion. Okay, we also see an increase in proportion of non-retail business, or I can say this is a very good example. So I can say uh, or vice versa, or vice versa. Okay. So in this case, I'm quite sure that the opposite case, the vice versa case, is actually more relevant, because if I have non-retail businesses, right, retail businesses are like our shops from where we buy rice and grains and all these things. These can be considered as retail shops. Now, how much pollution will a retail shop really cause? Not much, right? But then if I have non-retail shops, which might be related to, let's say, hardware and things related to that, so maybe some kind of small and medium scale engineering shops, they will obviously be resulting into materials which may cause increase in the nitric oxide concentration in the air. So I'm not sure, I've never gone to that place, because this data set does not belong to the city where we live or the country where we live. So maybe we are not the right people to comment on these features. But if I only take the statistical approach, this is what I can find. Right, this is what I can clearly see, which is as per the correlation coefficient ranges that I've taken. As explained, I've taken correlation coefficients greater than or equal to plus 0.7, or greater than or less than or equal to minus 0.7. Okay, so anything which is very highly positively correlated or very highly negatively correlated. Right, now let's start with the rest of the process. So what we have done until now is we have done most of our analysis basis what the features that we got. Right, we got the features. Now we need to take the labels. We need to take the labels and maybe we can put it together along with the features. If we put it along with the features, what we can essentially achieve is that we can again try to do this kind of correlation analysis. Okay, we can try to do this correlation analysis in the various different ways, and we try to figure out, right, we try to figure out what is really the most important factors which are, let's say, affecting the price of the house. Because we are doing a linear regression, just to reiterate, because we are doing a linear regression, my prima facie objective is as simple as I need to I need to first of all concentrate. I'm not saying I'm not going to concentrate on any other areas. Okay, we are going to look at cases where the data or the relationship may really not be linear, and we will still be able to use some forms of regression. I'll quickly tell you the names as well if that interests you. There are some forms of a regression known as ridge, lasso, or let's say polynomial. These three names are quite common because they are used very frequently, right? But a regression, all in all, is a technique where you fit some function. Okay, y is equal to f of x. That's what you are trying to do. That function can be linear, in which case there is a linear relationship between x and y, and hence we call that a single or a simple linear regression. In case we have only one x, or if we have multiple x's, we call it multiple linear regression, right? So that's one part, or that's one type of the regression analysis. The others can will even exist in case where there is no linear relationship between the x's and the y, right? In that case, we have to change the order. We have to change, let's say, the function, or the, let's say, the order of the function. So let's say we have to take second order or third order, let's say, polynomials to explain a regression scenario, which we can otherwise term as a polynomial regression problem. So we are going to look at those problems as well. Maybe they are going to explain the data better. We have other regression options as well, which are taken, or the ideas are borrowed from the machine learning algorithms, which are usually used in the classification side of things, right? We have such cases as well, but this is too early to go in there, right? Because we have not really covered the classification area, but we will definitely, part of this regression thing, we will be looking into ridge, lasso, and the polynomial things, which we did not specifically look when we were looking into statistics, because from a statistical aspect, what really matters, okay, what really matters is this, which is a linear regression, okay. The other views are actually not entirely statistical. It's kind of a combination of statistics and computer science. So that's what we are trying to do here. Now, uh, when I said, let's take the data, let's take the targets, and let's try to put it into a data frame. So I have my features. Let me just quickly scroll up. So I could see there is, yeah. So I have taken it into y. Okay. I've taken it into the variable y. I'm just going to print it once and see what it does. So I have y. This is actually the price of the house. Okay. I think the price of the house is in thousands of US dollars. Let's see. Yeah, it is USD thousands. Median value of homes in USD thousand. That's what we are trying to predict. And this, if I'm not wrong, should be an array. Yeah, it's a NumPy array. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to, let's see if I can directly convert it into a data frame, right? Can I directly convert it into a data frame? Yeah, I can convert it into a data frame, and I can give it a column name, and I'm going to call it MEDV, right? This is the column name. So I'm just going to print this. I think I've done some mistake. Otherwise, it should not be taking this much of time. Let me see what mistake I've done. Okay. Columns is equal to, this should not be column. This will be columns, right? Okay. MEDV. What is the problem here? Must be called with the color. Oh, sorry. This is a list actually. This is a very silly mistake. This should be list. Okay. Now I think I have got it in the right way. Yeah, I think I've got it in the right way. I just got a pop-up on my side that my internet connection is not stable. May I quickly check with you, Rohit? Can you confirm if you are still able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, but the
Okay.
video is lagging a bit.
Lagging or what?
Yeah, video is lagging a bit.
I see. I see. Give me 1 minute. Let me just disconnect all my other devices. Maybe that's the reason why I'm getting lesser speed over here. So let's okay. I think there is some slowness still, but let's continue. I think this should be fine. Uh, okay, so maybe I'll speak slowly. We can go slowly, right? Okay, so I am able to convert this into a data frame. So I am going to call this targets. Okay, I'm going to call this targets. I've just created a new data frame which is targets, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create in a new cell, I'm going to say targets dot describe. Okay, it is very essential actually that we look into each and every variable statistical description, because then we will really understand what that variable is looking out for. Okay, now if you see over here clearly I have a problem. I have a mean of 22 and 75% and my median is 21. So this looks to be a normally distributed data. uh, this means that I have some confidence. I can really have some confidence on myself that yes, regression is a good use case in this case, because we know that the assumptions of linear regression, whether that is simple or whether that is multiple, is one of the assumptions is that the target should be normally distributed. But why to believe only on these numbers? Let's have a quick look. SNS dot displot, and I'm going to say target, right? Targets MEDV. Okay, so it should print a nice chart is what I'm expecting, although it's not really nice. uh, it cannot really be called a bimodal graph, because this mode is quite small as compared to the other mode, right? So I can call it close to normal distribution. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I can call it close to normal. And the histogram is also going to look like the block that you see over here, right? So this is fine. I believe this should work. Plt dot plot should also be there, right? If I don't put that, then unnecessarily it gives this is kind of, oh sorry, plt dot show, sorry, use of wrong statements. If I do plt dot show, it does not show me anything unnecessary. So yes, overall you can see here, I believe the movement of the video is okay now. So if you look at the distribution graph, uh, it's overall near to a normal distribution. This mode we can ignore because it is too small as compared to this. It's quite overall it is normal. I mean, it's not really a problem. But what if it is not normal? So are there any techniques that we can employ? Are there any techniques? The answer is yes. There are techniques by means of which we can uh, make this field, this feature, a normal kind of a variable. But then why is that not a good thing to do? Is that we have a data set where we have the features. Okay, we have the features and we have the target. So these are the features, these are the features which we have, let's say, and this is one target which I have. Now usually what we do, and that's what we are going to do over here as well, once we are done with the data selection and data analysis kind of stage, we are going to scale the data. If you remember, when we looked into the basics of regression, we did talk about concepts like overfitting and underfitting, although not in depth. We just touched those words. We said that when we look into machine learning, we will be looking into that in depth. So that's what we are going to do now, right? This is the stage where all your previous knowledge is going to come down and join as a dot, right? So all the dots of those things that we have learned earlier is going to come down, because what we are doing over here using code snippets like this is what we are trying to practically implement by doing a project, right? So that's where all the concepts are coming down. So I'm just taking machine learning as an excuse to create use cases, to create projects. So for each and every machine learning algorithm, and later on we will see algorithms which are like ensembles, we will be taking one use case and then we'll go ahead. That's what we have planned right now. Part of the use case, one thing that we do usually is that we scale the features. This makes them very easy to compute. This makes them quite error free, as much error free as possible. We cannot make a data set bias free. Okay, we cannot make a data set bias free, because ultimately these data sets are created by systems which are controlled by human beings. Okay, these are created by systems which are controlled by human beings. So as long as we are there in the picture, As long as in any way or the other we are there in the picture, and we will be there in the picture because we will exist, right? It is our environment only which is producing this kind of a data set, right? So since we exist, and as long as we are going to exist, there will always be bias, and to remove the bias as much as possible, we are going to do the feature scaling and all these kind of techniques, right? So if I do feature scaling, that's fine. I mean, I can do two kinds of scaling. If you remember, we talked about those two kinds of scaling. One was the standard scaling, and one was, do you remember the other type? Any idea, Rohi, what was the other one? So one was the standardization, right? Other one was the normalization. Okay, so standardization is where we took the variable value. We take the variable value, we subtract the mean of the value. Subtract the mean of the value divided by the standard deviation, right? Once we divide it by the standard deviation, this is now a standardized value of this variable. And it also gives us an indication how much far away this value actually is from the mean, or how many standard deviations it's away. So that's one way of doing it, right? This is also known as the Z value, right? This is the Z value. If you remember, this is the formula for Z value. The other way is the normalization. In normalization, what do? I take X and I subtract the minimum value. I subtract the minimum value of X from X. And then in the denominator, I take the range of X. So range of X will be what? Maximum of X minus minimum of X. If I do this, I'm eventually converting the feature or that value of any feature, okay, within the range of 0 to 1. Within the range of 0 to 1 is what I'm doing, right? So I'm simply normalizing the fields. This becomes very easy. Now my data set is going to be really properly scaled, and I should be able to use it. And the convergence, right? This is a topic which we talked earlier as well. The convergence is going to be quite good, right? But can we do the same thing with my target variable? The answer is yes. Computationally, we can do. It is just a matter of writing 2 lines of code, right? Within 2 lines of, let's say, Python code, I should be able to do that. But what if I do it and then I try to predict something? I have to denormalize it again, right? Because people are not going to ask me questions about a normalized form of the rent or the price of the house. They are not going to ask me for a standard value or a Z value of the price, right? People in the business, people in the market do not really need to know. If let's say you are creating a product out of this, something like, let's say, 99 acres type, and you are creating that for people living into the Boston area, where they can simply go to the website, put in these details, and based on that, or maybe these details are fed from a backend system, some data.gov.us system from where you are already feeding this data every day, and you are compiling the model. And then on the front end, what the user sees is that, okay, if I go to this area, the average price of that area, or the average price of any apartment or house in that area, will be so and so thousands of dollars. Right? Now, if you give that person a standardized value and you write that this is not an actual value, it is a Z score, do you expect that user to go back to school and study statistics? No, that is our job. It may not be applicable for the users, right? So you have to denormalize it or de-standardize it, and you have to bring it back to that value, and then you have to display and so on. So there is a lot of computational improbability over here. There's a lot of computational effects, or let's say efforts, which we have to put. So right, so to avoid that, what we do is we do not scale the target variable. We usually avoid scaling the target variable. We do not do any transformations in the target variable, right? But in the features, we do the scaling. So that is what to remember. So what I mean, or what is the gist of this quick description, was that, let's say you have a distribution which is not really normal. It's kind of normal. So it would have been normal had it been something like this. Okay, let's say the red line is actually the best normal distribution, the best one, or the ideal one. Okay, but the black one, is that really ideal one? This is the actual one. Let's say this is this one. Okay, the the black one is actually the one which you see for this MEDV column. right? But what we expect is something like this. If this had been a proper normally distributed thing, right, then the mean, median and mode should have been at the same place, and it should have been falling in the middle place, right? But overall I can say that yes, it is okay, right? I mean, it is okay, right? So now, uh, considering this is okay-ish in terms of normal distribution, we are one step ahead. We now know that yes, the data is or the target variable is also quite good. We know that yes, this is really possible. Now let's try to do, again we are going to do, let's compare each of the feature variables, okay, or columns with the target variable, and try to see if there is any relationship, if there is any relationship or correlation. Okay, we'll do this in two different ways. One very easy way, draw the scatter plots, right? First we are going to use the scatter plots, and then we are going to use the correlation heat map, right? So both of these methods will be more than enough for us to do this activity. Okay. So in this case, what we are going to do, let's write that for loop once more, or maybe what I can do, let me get back and let me copy this from here. Let me just copy this from here, because this is one piece of code I can copy, and I can say here SNS dot scatter plot. Is there a function like this? Let me see. I've just pressed tab. Yes, scatter plot is there. So features each column, and I'm going to plot. That is my X, and my Y is going to be targets MEDV, right? I hope you got the point. So I'm trying to draw a scatter plot where X is each and every column of features, or each and every feature, and the Y is the target. Okay, so let's see how it goes, right? So I'm going to say plt dot fig size is equal to 11 comma 11. So this might give me a good sized kind of data, right? So let everything come down, and then we are going to look into it. I think it is still executing. Yeah, this will take some time. Also because we are using Cmod. Maybe as it is progressing, let's look into the data. So obviously there is not much of a linear relationship between crime and MEDV. So what is happening over here is it's all coagulated at one place. There is no line that I can fit over here. Maybe I can actually. I can fit one line which is going to be a straight line, right? But that's not going to be a regression line. A regression line will be something. This has been very big, man. Let me just change this and redraw it again. This has been really very big. I'm not able to digest it. Let's just see in this size. So comparing crime rates with the median price of the houses, I don't see any linearly separate. I don't see any linear relationship over here, right? The same applies to Zn. Some form of linear relationship would have been there if I could have removed the outliers, right? But Zn is also not good. So let me just write down these findings. Let me just write down. Okay, I am going to say comparison findings. Okay, so comparison findings are what? First finding is who or which features have linear relationship as per scatter plot. Okay, so I'm just going to write the name of the feature, so that is going to make it easier or quicker, right? So I'm just going to look at that output and I'm going to write it over here. So what are the features that have a linear relationship, and what are the features who don't have? Which features don't have? So don't have, I've already found. I have found CRIM. The next feature I found is ZN. Okay, ZN also does not have any direct linear relationship. The third one is what? Somewhat linear relationship. Indus. Somewhat. Okay, there's somewhat linear relationship. I can try to draw it something like this. Somewhat. Okay, and say somewhat. Right, but if I do this, I still have a lot of outliers. Maybe a different way to chart this will be something like this. But this is not what we have learned as of now. So we cannot do this right now. Right, so Indus also does not have one. CHAS also does not have one. Okay, Indus, CHAS also does not have one. Then I have this. Okay, Knox. Yes, there is some kind of a linear relationship. Some linear relationship is there. There are a lot of outliers, but barring the outliers, what I can say, I can draw this line. Right, I may be most probably be able to draw this kind of a line, or maybe the line is going to look something like this. Right, because there are outliers, it will be dragged a little bit, so it will look something like this. Right, so there will be outliers. If I'm able to remove the outliers from Knox, then yes, there is a probability this line will improve. Right, but there is somewhat linear relationship between Knox and MEDV. So as NOx increases, the median value of the houses decreases. So this is quite easy to understand. If there are places in my city where the air pollution is going to be high, obviously people are not going to stay there, right? Who is going to stay in a place where there is lot of, let's say, pollution? Somewhat feature have at least somewhat. So I'm just relaxing my criteria. So Knox has at least somewhat linear relationship. Then what is the next? Let me clear the drawing. Oh, wonderful. So see this. This is really good. This is good. This is not bad at all. This is really good. I mean, compared to the other ones, right? It is really good. There are outliers. Yes, I do understand there are outliers. These are the outliers. This one is an outlier. These two are outliers. Right? If I ignore those outliers, if you just remove them from the diagram, okay, try to visualize as if they are not there. If they are not there, the rest of the points are all falling within this range within the data. So if I fit a regression line like this, it explains the data very well, right? So that's really good. So RM is a very good variable. What is RM? What is RM? Let's see. Let me go back to my notepad. What is RM? Average number of rooms per dwelling. Okay, this has very good relationship, and obviously this makes sense as well. I mean, the price is going to increase, right? If I have more rooms, right? So it seems that looking at this data, looking at the correlation, it's quite clear that people are more bothered in the city of Boston about what uh, things will be there or which things are there inside the house rather than which are there in the surroundings. Right, I mean, people may or may not be bothered about crime rates and so on. If you see, there is no linear relationship between crime rates and the median value of the house price, but there is a linear relationship between number of rooms inside a dwelling and how much that will be costing. Right, so this is a useful finding. Right, this is a really useful finding. Then I'll go ahead and see. No, this is, I mean, this is not very bad, but then yes, it is not really good as well. I mean, I can take a line and I can draw it somewhat like this. And there is a downward relationship, not so good. It is really not so good. Lot of outliers are there. So I'm going to put it over here. Maybe you may have a different opinion. Uh, but from my perspective, it's not really good. So age does not signify how much price there will be, but DIS signifies somewhat price. So uh, DIS signifies somewhat price because there is a scatter like this, I understand, but I can still try to draw a line which is something like this. Okay, this is a very, very common use case of linear regression, because you will, at many point in time, right, you will see that this kind of models are being built. So I'll just do undo 3 times, and I'm just going to draw the regression line. So, or maybe the regression line, there are some outliers on the top section, right? So the line is going to look like this. This is not a bad line. If you look at this line, it's really not a bad line. I'll tell you why. There are some outliers over here. There are some outliers over here, the pieces that I have drawn. If you ignore them, right, the rest of the relationship is quite good. The rest of the relationship is already covered within this area, right? So it is already covered within this area. This is not bad. So keeping this in mind, this might be a good factor. I mean, this is really not a bad factor over here. I can't say it is a bad factor. I see there are outliers, there are effects of outliers. But if I'm somehow able to remove that, I may be able to get a good model, right? So why not? So I'll put it over here. What is DIS? Let me quickly check. Yeah, it is weighted distances to 5 Boston employment center. The more you are closer to the employment center, it seems the median value of the house is increasing, right? Obviously, there is no relationship. RAD very bad, tax very bad. Tax is also very bad. I mean, this is really interesting, man. And people might be having very good salaries in Boston, right? I mean, there is no upward or downward trend like relationship between the median value of a house and tax which people are paying. So yeah, I don't know. So RAD and tax, these are not good. So I'll put it over here. RAD, tax, these are not good. These are really not good. Okay. As per me, these are not good. Then the other one is PT ratio. Not bad. And this is really not very bad. I can fit a line like this. And if I'm able to remove the outliers, this is going to be a good model. I mean, if I was doing a simple linear regression with only PT ratio and MEDV, let's quickly check what is PT ratio as well. And there is a clear downward trend, right? What is PT ratio? Pupil teacher ratio by term. Yeah. We saw the definition as well onto Wikipedia, right? We know this is bad. So pupil teacher ratio increasing is not good. So it seems people who buy houses in Boston, they are quite interested in good education, right? Because they are not buying apartments in Boston because of the very mere fact that there is an increase in the student to teacher ratio in school. Right now we have two more variables left. LSTAT, this is a very, very good relationship. Really very good relationship. I mean, I can clearly draw a regression line over here. This is very good relationship. So LSTAT is good, but what about B? B is not good. So I'll call B here, and LSTAT. What is LSTAT? By the way, LSTAT is percentage lower status of the population. And what it is saying over here is there is an increase, there is a decrease in the price of a house as we increase, or as we see an increase in the percentage of lower status of the population. So more the status goes to lower with respect to job, this will be, I'm sure, uh, or the kind of salary people might be getting. Obviously, they will not be able to buy such kind of uh, big houses, right? So maybe their houses is going to be small. So overall, this is what I find. So I'm just going to put it over here. I'm going to copy paste. I'm simply going to copy paste. I'm going to say findings from above scatter plots is this, right? Now let's do the heat map. So I've got some idea. If you are asking me what I should do next, I would be very specific and pick these 5 features and create a model, right? Because I see maximum variation over here, right? I see maximum variation over here. So if you ask me the next step in the modeling I should do is pick these 5 features, do a feature scaling and create a model. And that should actually give me a good model. But that should not give me the best possible model. I'll tell you later why I'm saying that. You see in the heading of this notebook as well, I've not really written we are doing linear regression or multiple linear regression. We will try things like region lasso, and that's where we are going to improve the functionality a lot. Okay, we are really going to improve the functionality. That's why I would like to keep it open, and later stage we will do more, right? So now let's do a heat map. So how do I do a heat map? I need to create one single, let's say, data frame where I have both the features and the columns. So can I do that? Let's see. pd.data frame, features and targets. Can I do this? No, index data must be one dimensional. I think what I need to do is I cannot do this. So clearly Python does not provide this feature. So what I need to do, I can do something like this. Features. Let's see, there is one more option. Let's see if that works. pd.merge. Okay. So there is no column to merge. What am I going to do? So there is an option called concat. Okay. So concat works in a different way. It works like this. So it's going to work like this. Let's see if this is going to work. Data frame object has no attribute concat. Okay. So I'm not able to figure out. Let's go to Google. How to join. Okay. How to join two data frames in pandas, right? So we are going to do this kind of activities from time to time where we are not able to do something, and then we will go to the documentation and we are going to find things out. Joining data frames in pandas. I think dot join is going to work. I just got one idea from there. Why not use that right now? So dot join. If I do a dot join, right, it gives me the values. So I'm done. I'm done. So I'm now going to say Boston is equal to features dot join. Okay. Now, if you would like to know about these, I would strongly recommend that you look into the documentation. I'll just share the documentation here. So this is the documentation that we can look at. I'm not able to find the chat window. Yeah, so I'll just put it here. So this is the documentation of how we can do merging. There are many other ways. The ones that I have tried, right? Which are the ones that I have tried? I used concat. I used merge. I used a different way to do the concat. I first of all failed by using the data frame function. Obviously, using the data frame function, I cannot do any join. So let's keep that out of picture. Then I tried three options: merge, concat, and join. Merge is where it was asking for, right? It was asking for a common key. So if you want to merge two data frames, you need a common key. If you're doing a concatenation, right? If you're doing a concatenation is somewhat like you were, let's say, appending a file with new data, right? So that's what concatenation means, but that's not our use case. That's why it failed. The third is where I'm joining. Joining is where I'm joining one piece to another piece, just like I'm using a sellotape and I'm joining two pieces of paper, which I may have accidentally scraped off, right? So I thought it's not a useful paper and I tore it, right? And now I realize it's a very important paper. I joined the two pieces and then I'm applying a sellotape from the background, right? So that's exactly what this join function is going to do. If I look at Boston, it will have the entire information. You see, all the columns are now there. MEDV is also there. So I have 13 features and I have one target, right? Now I have all the data sets. So what do? I can simply say boston.corr, right? If I do boston.corr, it's going to give me the correlations. Now, in this case, I can also survive. I can also survive without doing a heat map. I'll tell you why. Because I don't need to concentrate on any other columns. There's a very simple technique. Very, very simple technique. If you want to be, not confused by these numbers, then what you do? You are interested looking at what? Which are the features related to the target? Then you reverse the question and try to answer it. So we look at the target. We look at the row which is that of the target, this one or this one, right? So either I look at this row or I look at this thing, right? So either I look at the last row or this column and I look at the values. If I look at the values, what do I get? Okay. There are multiple different types of values. I'm going to only take the ones which are higher, okay, or in the higher range, closer to 0.7. This is 0.69. It relates to RM. Okay, there is any other, yeah, there is one more, minus 0.73. This relates to LSTAT. This is a very good correlation, right? This is a very good correlation. The rest are not really that good. Rest are not really that good. Maybe I should relax my limits of 0.7 a little bit. Let's go to 0.5. If I go to 0.5, I see one more, which is Indus. It's closer to minus 0.5, right? If you see, closer to minus 0.5. This is also closer to minus 0.5. That's tax. And closer to minus 0.5 is this, okay, PT ratio. But if I'm taking 0.5 as a definitive place, then obviously my PT ratio is really negatively correlated. LSTAT is also negatively correlated. RM is really positively correlated, and so on. Right? Now let's try to match this. Let's try to match this with our finding. Our finding said NOx, RM, DIS, P ratio, LSTAT. NOx, what is the relationship with NOx? Minus 0.42, not bad. So we are going in the right kind of a direction. Then we looked at what? RM. RM is really very good. You see over here, RM is 0.70. It's a good positive relationship. Then I have DIS. How much is the correlation for a DIS? Very small. So this was not good. This finding of ours was not good. Let me just change this. Okay, let me just change this. Okay, I did a mistake over here. I accept it. This was a mistake. I should not have done that. Right. So let's just change this. Okay. Again, I see. Is there anything else? What was there? PT ratio. PT ratio is where PT ratio is here. This is quite good. I mean, this is somewhat negative. And then LSTAT. LSTAT is there, right? So now I have these findings, which are I can call the findings from the correlation comparison. Okay, I can call them over here. Maybe even better, what I can do, let me just create the heat map anyways. So I'm going to do a heat map, and I'm going to pass Boston dot CORR, and then I'm going to say annotation is equal to true, and then I'm going to say PLT dot show, and I should be able to with the numbers within the cell, right? So that's what annotation equal to true does. When it prints the heat map in each and every block, in each and every box, it's going to put the numbers. So if there are numbers within that block, it is quite easy for us to understand, right? What is going on. So this is quite small one. Let me just go back again and do a PLT dot figure. Fig size is equal to 11,11. I think this should be fine, but it will still take time. This is quite normal behavior. If you see this on your end as well, using SNS or the packages related to C1, then and this is quite really normal. I mean, this happens. Okay, this really happens. Okay, so clearly, yes. So I have this variable I have to concentrate on, right? So minus 0.74 LSTAT. Then I have this variable also PT ratio, right? Then I have this variable. Positive correlation is not really there other than RM. So RM has a very good positive correlation. So I just proved that this finding was really correct. It was quite correct. I just misjudged one, which was DIS. DIS was not a good choice. I don't know why I took that over there. Right? DIS is not a good choice. Right. So that was my mistake. Now I have done my correlations. I have joined both the data. Now is the time. What was going to be the next strategy? Next, we can now perform the following. Okay, we can perform the following. Divide the data into training and testing. That's point number one. Point number two, scale the features so that we do not overfit. Overfit. We are going to define this concept. You don't know what is overfit. So what is overfit, by the way? So we are going to write it over here, and then what we are going to do, we will, sorry, let me just, we are going to fit perform VIF and RFE to understand which features contribute more to my towards my model. That will be just an addition with on top of the correlation that I've done, and that is really important. I'll explain why I'm doing correlation, and then again I'm also doing VIF or RFE to find out the good list of features. That is really something that we need to do. We cannot only rely on correlation because we know the answer. Correlation does not mean there is a causation. Okay, the correlation does not mean there is a causation. Just because we are saying that RM is very highly positively correlated, that does not mean, okay, that does not mean what is RM, average number of rooms per dwelling being higher, is the cause of the price of house being higher. Are you getting my point? Correlation does not mean causation. That's the reason why we have to be very sure which features we are taking and why we are taking. So once we are done, then we do feature selection basis above findings. Okay, and then what we are going to do, fit the linear regression models and find the parameters or equation. Okay, and then optionally, so once this is done, later we will improvise the model, right? Later we are going to improvise the model, so don't worry. So yes, that's one thing that I forgot to do. This is not good. Let me just do it over here, and then we are going to cut and paste. Yeah, right. So that's what we are going to do. Okay, or maybe even after feature selection we can do the scaling of the features. Why to scale everything, right? We can do after feature selection. So this will come over here. Let me just cut and paste. So we divide the data into training and testing. We perform these techniques to understand which features contribute more to my model, towards our model, sorry. Then we do feature selection basis the above findings. Once you have selected the features, we do the scaling, and we are going to look at the definition of what is overfitting. Then we fit the regression models and we find the parameters or the coefficients, right? We find the coefficients. So coefficients, and then we are going to later improve the model by using different kind of models, right? I think this is a logical stop here. Let's make a stop over here. Okay, we are going to continue tomorrow, but I will be sharing these notes and this code with you. Yeah, thank you so much. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good
Good night.
night.